Okay, thank you very much for this very kind introduction. Yes, I thought when you celebrate an anniversary, you really have to do something very special. So I thought, let's have a look at our sector from a rather different perspective. Are we sexy? And sexy means nothing else but attractive. And we heard a bit from the speech before. I'm going to talk pro something, not so much against something. And you can imagine that the answer is, in the end, yes. But let me give you some reasons for it. Well, first of all, let's look into history. When I saw the 100th anniversary, in a way, or the 100th conference, I looked a bit back, where do we come from? And originally, the first patent on something similar to corrugated was developed here in the UK. And it was the Toby collar. And this is the document that I found from 1856, where it was describing how to make a flute into something, but it was not considering yet packaging. So that was 1856, and then a miracle happened. There was a patent admission at incredible speed. I don't know how much time it takes now. I think 1, 2, 3 years to get a patent. Well, the application for this patent was the 1st of November, and the patent was given the same year on the 19th of December, and this was in 1871. And most of you might know that this was Albert Jones, and this was the improvement in paper for packaging. So it was the first time that corrugated was described as a packaging for bottles, and it was a means for securely packaging vials and bottles with a single thickness and so on. I think we will get the presentation, so if you want to reread it, you can do that, but you find this also on the internet. And that's what the picture looked like. So our material has a very long history. We are very proud on it. This is the first corrugator, also way back. And my thesis is corrugated is great, it's sexy. We have a lot of new markets and opportunities. The political environment is very much pro-paper packaging. So I think what was said before is true. But let's also stay modest, because there are some new challenges on the way which might not always be in favor of us. And as a last point, of course, I'm going to present ourselves as well a little bit. What is FEFCO doing in order to promote our material? Andrew already mentioned a few things, but we go a bit beyond that. So let's go to the first one. Corrugated cardboard packaging is great. We also had the discussion at FEFCO, very, very heated. The same thing about the wording. Should we use corrugated? Should we use cardboard? Should we use corrugated board, paper packaging, or whatever? At the moment, this is a compromise, but we also agreed that when it comes to the general public, we use more cardboard than corrugated. Because, let's be frank, nobody understands what's corrugated. And outside of the UK, on the European market, and when you go to Brussels, the English in Brussels, that's a word totally unknown. The market is flexible, and we have one big advantage also, at least in the companies that run a corrugator. We can easily change from 1 to 2 shifts to 3 shifts. So we can be very, very flexible in the amount of paper or packaging we put on the market. Then we have a big advantage. Our product does not bear many risks, at least not in the production process, and of course also not in the after-use process when it comes to the recycling. And the market has also shown a steady growth. Well, I'm talking from the European perspective, not so much from the UK market. And if you look at the average growth between 1969 and 2018, and those are the FEFCO figures, we come to an average growth of 2.5% every year. And that is something not every industry can claim. And I think we have a very solid base to build on our future. We are the recycling champion, paper and board, 82.1% in 2017, compared to steel, glass, and aluminium, which are the other champions. And I think this is one of the biggest assets that we have in this discussion nowadays. We are 100% recyclable, and what is the difference to other material? We are being recycled. Although the 100%, I would like to challenge them, because when it comes to lamination and so on, we have a little less than 100%. But at a European level, 89% of average content is coming from recycled paper. We do at FEFCO an LCA every 3 years. You might have seen the recent one. You can see it also on the internet. Corrugated is sexy. Yes, it is. Look at this. By the way, this was a present given to me by my staff for a birthday a couple of years ago, and I love this bowl. Look at this little cactus. You can do so nice things with it, but also sometimes practical things. Look at the egg holder, the packaging for the eggs. So we can do a lot of things, and what I always experience when it comes to friends and people not working in the industry, as soon as you start explaining what our product is like, they become fans. And they start sending me articles from the newspaper. Oh, I've seen something about corrugated here and there. And I think that is something you all experience in your friends community. People don't know much about our product, but as soon as they learn about it, they are the biggest fans that you can imagine. So we should also start opening fan shops. New markets. I call it the e-commerce market. Of course, we have a business model in e-commerce that's built on corrugated. And the other one, and I think here in the UK we are better than in the rest of Europe, the food delivery market. But there, I am afraid we are also losing a battle. You have returnable plastic crates, and you have corrugated, and the returnables are quite good, doing good in business so far. The e-commerce corrugated packaging is an enabler, as I said. And if you remember the discounter story of Aldi that started all with Aldi in Germany, it was built on corrugated packaging. The stores in the 50s and 60s, they were brown stores. There was absolutely no advertisement. It was simplifying the thing. And that was how the discounter started. And the same in a way is starting with e-commerce. Now they are starting to do the boxes more beautiful, to make prints and so on. But it is the base for the business model. Over times, I think the customers are exploding in size and market powers. I only need to mention Amazon. And the search for alternatives, I was really amazed that a year ago the news came up that Amazon is starting to test plastic sleeves to replace corrugated. That is happening in the US, whether you like it or not. So there's something, I think they have not really understood what the world is like today. And also a company of the size of Amazon, let's be aware, they might start introducing converting stations to build their packaging wherever they need it. So let's be aware, there are also some risks to it. What are the new packaging models? The substitution of plastics, of course, is taking place. We heard a lot before. And in the food delivery system, as I said, returnable plastic systems versus corrugated, I think there's a risk that we lost already that market to a big deal. What is our political environment? And I'm going to talk now more about Brussels. In 2015, the EU Commission made a new business model that was called the circular economy. 54 actions were decided, and the idea was, in the past we had the linear economy saying from natural resources to waste, but the circular economy means that from waste we go back to resources. And corrugated, of course, is the perfect example. We are circular by nature, we are recyclable, renewable, biodegradable, natural. In the ocean we dissolve in 2 months, we are totally digestible, you can eat us. It doesn't taste too well, but... And in the end, we are not ending up in the food chain. The circular economy also in the legislative process, bio-based materials were recognized, and the focus is now on reuse and recycling, and the landfill ban for recyclable waste, and the targets for the households for all packaging by 2025 are 65%, for plastic 50% only, for paper and board 75%. For me the question always when I see figures like that, why a difference between plastics and paper packaging? But I think that's ongoing, so we don't need to go too much in depth. Plastic strategy, that was a new scope at Brussels in 2016, and the EU Commission never ever received such a positive feedback than when they announced the plastic strategy. Within days, they had millions of clicks and responses, so it was really a big surprise. And some things developed out of that. But before I come to that, I want to tell you a little story. This is a German word. It's called Quietscheentchen. Quietscheentchen is this little guy here. You can see it? I show it to you on the screen. That's how it looks. I think he comes from Italy. But you have different models. You have down there is one from D.S. Smith. You have one from Cologne Carnival, a French guy, and so on. And I would like you to imagine that you are sitting on a cruise boat. You are having a beautiful, soft wind covering your face. The sun is shining, not like here. And you open your eyes all of a sudden, and then you see this. Now, what's the story behind this? In 1992, a container with plastic floaties there was an accident on the boat and fell into the sea and opened. 28,000 plastic ducks, turtles, beavers, and frogs, they fell overboard. Many of them drowned, poor little ducks, but many survived. And they had an incredible trip. First of all, they were found in Alaska, and then you can see that the colors, some of them faded, some not. But the trip they took, so the incident was between Hong Kong and the US in January 92. You can see in November in the north of America, in Alaska, they arrived. In 26 in Tacoma. And then they went all the way up around even to Europe, to Ireland. And in 2007, some were found in Ireland. And what was interesting about this route, these are new streams that the oceanographers could discover because of plastic ducks. The story behind it, of course, is how long does plastic remain in the sea? And this is from the Marine Debris Program, a chart that shows that plastic remains 400 to 450 years in the sea. Our paper-based products, you can see 2 months, 3 months, 6 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks. But let's also challenge this. Do we really have research on how our paper reacts in the sea? I was challenged by a guy from Nestle on this, and I think we need to do some homework on this as well. We are always claiming our fibers are natural and so on, but how much evidence, scientific evidence, do we really have? So let's have a look at that in the future and do some more research on this. The EU Commission, as a follow-up of the plastic strategy, then started with the Single-Use Plastic Directive, which was a very political file, very ambitious, and they wanted within short time to act and to do some legislation. And the target was that plastic packaging will be, all of it, reusable or recycled by 2030. So that's a political target, and there's a lot ongoing at the EU level. So in 2 years only, the Commission approved a proposal and then came into power in 2019. What they targeted was marine litter, and it's very amazing, at least I found it very amazing, what is found on our beaches. So you have cotton buds, you have, of course, cutlery and plates and so on, food containers, and all kind of other things that normally on European beaches you don't find that much. What we saw, the pictures you showed, that is Asia. In Asia, of course, you have a total different attitude towards plastic. But these are now the proposals that are prohibited. What for us is important, what happens to laminated products? And at the moment, the tendency is to say it is not recyclable. And the reasoning behind it is, in the pulper, you have 95% of fibers, let's say, but the plastic that's ending up in the pulp and the paper mill is not being recycled. Usually we have it either burned or as landfill. So we have problems here, and we are working on it as FEFCO to get a good solution. Excuse me, can I have a glass of water, please? My voice is a bit... thank you very much. Sorry. So what is the directive saying? We have a ban on products from 2021, but that needs to be turned into national legislation. So depending on the outcome of the politics in the near future. Thank you very much. Thank you. Cheers, yeah, Bob. So depending on what happens in the next weeks here in this country, either this will concern you or not. And the consumption reduction should be by 2026, including cups for beverages and food containers. And then from 2024, caps and lids should be attached like on the Tetra carton, so that you don't have two pieces, but it all stays in one. And there will be also a recycled content target. There's also a special part on the single-use plastic directive. It's a lex specialis, and that means that every country can go beyond what the Commission says. So if France decides tomorrow to be more strict, they can easily do it. And that also includes the EPR scheme, Extended Producer Responsibility. That's a green dot for those that don't know. And it includes the definition of the producer, including the e-commerce. And in the long run, the cost for cleaning up the litter will be on the producers. So there is already something that has been reached. Is that good or bad for paper packaging? That's also a question we always need to keep in mind. Paper, of course, is a great alternative. We have inks and adhesives that are expand. But in the plates, cups, and so on, food containers, paper is always concerned. So we always have this problem. As soon as you have some lamination, as soon as you have some plastic parts, it's going to be a problem. Our expectation is that we will have more bans of single-use products. And what you also need to pay attention to, the EU is pumping enormous amounts into research for plastic recycling. And it is not called plastic recycling, it's called recycling. So if you have good projects, apply for that money as well. That's my suggestion. The Commission to-do list is they will make a guidance on single-use plastic products now, will propose further measures by 2027. And there will, of course, the methodology, it's a lot of detail. For calculation of reduction needs to be done, and the guidance on the cost up for clean up the litter as well. So a lot of things will be developing over the next 3-4 years. Now, I want to pour some water into the wine. We have some new challenges. One is, there's a lot of discussion on single-use products. And corrugated is a single-use product. And we have stupid politicians like Jo Leinen in the European Parliament who said, we need products that have a long life and not those one-way products that you throw away after using them once only. Of course, he meant that in a different context, but let's be aware, the politicians still have a very simple mindset sometimes, and when it's single-use, corrugated is included automatically. So we must be very much aware, and I imagine that's also a tendency sometimes in the UK. And the second thing, packaging per se. A lot of people in the Commission think, let's get rid of packaging. Yeah, okay, how do you want to carry home your eggs? Just in holding them in your hands. You can do that, of course, but it's a danger that the packaging is considered as something very negative. And we must always keep in mind and remind people on the good and benefits of packaging. So those are the two things that I see as very critical for the future, where we must be aware and where our public relations work also must work out. Now, last chapter, do good and talk about it, communicating our advantages. I told you at the beginning I will talk a little bit about what FEFCO is doing. So this is part of our campaign. We are promoting to customers and retailers, of course, the Brussels bubble, to the political stakeholders, multipliers, and also consumers, the end users of our products. Recycling. Here's one example of what FEFCO did, and I hope it is working now. No, the films are not working. Okay, we have to skip that. What FEFCO has been doing over the last years is concentrate on social media. We went completely away from print, focusing the money in the social media, as the modern way of communicating. And also, another advantage is we are European organizations, and we have a lot of national associations that work in different languages. Now, if we promote something and we develop material, we want our national associations also to use it to multiply the efforts. And it's much, much easier to change wording on a social media than on a printing ad, and much cheaper and much easier. So this is being done quite extensively. And here are some of the motives and GIFs that we are using. And it's here we have the issue of circular by nature. And you can see we developed this logo with the infinity symbol, circular by nature, that you find on all our ads. There is also the issue of plastic crates, returnable plastic crates in the supermarket for the fruit and vegetable. And our French colleagues did a study where they showed that people stay much longer in an aisle when there is natural packaging, when there is corrugated, than when there's plastic. It's quite an interesting study. It was a neurolinguist that did this, but unfortunately here again, it is not working. Then for special events, we also had some kind of ads. And in 2019, we decided to go more for the circular by nature. And here is a very modern way of showing things. And you can see we are using the word cardboard. So it's efficient, it's cardboard. Fresh, it's cardboard. Luckily, it's cardboard. I think he has not had any alcohols that day. Beautiful, it's cardboard. Easy to store, to recycle, it's cardboard. Bio-based, it's cardboard. Naturally sourced, it's cardboard. And very important issue, fold it, store it, recycle it, and repeat. It's cardboard. The folding of the disposal at the houses, at the homes, is also a very important issue. So these are the ads that we're using in the internet, on the social media. And my conclusion for today, and then I'm coming to the end. Corrugated is great. I hope I reasoned enough for this. Corrugated is sexy. Politics provide us a very favorable environment. We have a good future, and some new challenges will keep us awake. And remember, we are always sitting in one boat. And if you can read that up there, it says, and please stop telling that everybody has his own method. That's where we should go. I think Europe and the UK. And I wish you a happy birthday, and thank you for letting me speak.